Hello, my dear students. Welcome to part 2 of passive voice. So let's get started. Now I'm going to explain some of the rules of passive voice. So students, you need to make certain alterations when you convert a sentence from active to passive. So here are some of the rules. Yeah. The first rule. The places of subject and object are interchanged. It means the subject will take the place of object and the object will take the place of subject in passive voice. Okay, so here remember one thing, that here subject and objects are only changing their places, but their functions will remain as it is. Okay, basically I just want to say one thing, that subject becomes object and object becomes subject in passive voice. Okay, rule number 2, passive form of verb will be used in passive voice. Yes, in passive voice you will always use passive form of verb. And how passive form of verb is formed? A passive form of verb is formed by combining or by joining to be verb with the past participle of the main verb. Fine. And rule number 3, the preposition by will be used before doer of the action in the passive voice. Yes. Now moving on to rule number 4, change of pronouns. Yes, change of pronouns will take place in passive voice. For example, if in your active voice the sentence is I am doing my work, so here I is the subject, but this subject or I becomes me in passive voice. Similarly, if she is there as the subject in active voice, she becomes her, he becomes him. Similarly, they becomes them, and we will become us in passive voice. And the last one, rule number 5, tense remains unchanged. Yes, the tense of that sentence will not change. So these are the rules you have to you need to learn when you convert a sentence from active to passive. Now I would like to elaborate rule number 2. So quickly shift to our next slide. So here we are going to learn the formation of passive verbs. So a passive form of verb is formed by adding to be, by combining to be verb with past participle of the main verb. Okay, for example, is plus eaten. It means is an example of, or is the to be verb and eaten is the past participle form of verb eat. Similarly, example 2, was completed. Was again to be verb, and third one is being played. So these 1, 2 and 3, all these are examples of passive verbs. I hope it is clear. Basically, form of the verb helps us to determine whether the sentence is in active or the sentence is in passive voice. Now moving on to the next slide. Okay, again here comes the definition of voice. So we will move to our next slide, that is slide number 11. So again passive voice is there. Here I'm reading the example. The dog bites Sam. Here dog is the subject and Sam is the object, and the base form of verb or verb 1 here is bites, not base form. Basically it is verb 1, and its passive form is Sam is bitten by the dog. Is bitten is the passive verb, Sam is the subject, but Sam here Sam is receiving the action. Sam is the receiver of the action, but here dog is the subject, but dog is the doer of the action. But since we are changing the sentence from active to passive, the places of subject and object are interchanged. It means dog has shifted here and Sam has shifted here. Okay, I hope it is clear. Moving on to my next slide. Yes, one more example. Melody writes the article. Melody is the subject, writes is the verb, and article is the object. Now melody is going to be shifted here and article is shifted here. Since article is the object and article or object becomes subject as per rule, so article here has become the subject and melody has acquired the place of object. Okay, so here article, the subject is receiving the action and the action is being performed by the subject melody. But here remember one thing, melody has only acquired or melody has only taken the place of object. Okay, now moving on to my next slide. Okay. Yes, active voice, passive voice. Cinderella met the prince at the ball. So Cinderella is the subject, Cinderella is the doer of the action, met is the verb, and prince here is the receiver of the action. Now it's passive form. Now the prince was met by Cinderella at the party. So prince is the receiver of the action. Prince is the receiver of the action, and was met is the passive form of verb, but here met is the active form of verb, right? Now moving on to my next slide. Few more examples. Active form, the professor teaches the students. Passive form, the students are taught by the professor. The teacher teaches the students. The students are taught by the teacher. The dog chased the cat. The cat was chased by the dog. Now a few more examples. Here the boy is kicking the ball, so the boy kicks the ball. So who is the receiver of the action? Definitely ball is the receiver of the action and ball is receiving the action performed by the subject. Passive form, the ball is kicked by the boy. Now one exercise. Let's do this exercise together. Active versus passive. Active form. Sarah painted the house. So first you have to identify the tense of the sentence. So since here verb to has been used, so this sentence is of simple past. Okay, so this is a past sentence subject. Okay, let me shift to my. Okay. Yes. So here it's passive form. The house was painted by Sarah. So verb to be, so we are using here passive verb. Okay, passive form of verb. And how a passive form of verb is formed? A passive form of verb is formed by combining to be verb with past participle of the main verb. Now active, the man cleaned the windows. So this sentence is of simple past. So it's what will be the answer? I know you know the answer. The windows was or were. Definitely were will come since windows stand for plural subject. So the windows were cleaned by whom? The windows were cleaned by the man. Okay. Moving on to the last one. Active. The Smiths own that house. So identify the tense of the sentence. Definitely it is written in simple present tense. So its passive form will be that house. That house. What will come next? That house is or was. Definitely is will come. That house is owned by the Smiths. Why I am using is, not are? Because the house is here. House is singular in number. Okay, there is only one house. That's why I have used is in place of are. Okay, I hope it is clear. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye for now. Take care.